Welcome and thank you for standing by. I would like to remind all parties that your lines will be on listen only for the duration of today's conference. This call is being recorded. If you should have any objection, you may disconnect at this time. It is now my pleasure to introduce your first speaker today, Ms. Peggy O'Connor. Thank you, ma'am. You may begin.
Thank you. We want to welcome you all to the Nationwide Public Safety Broadband Network Request for Proposal Overview. We will be recording this audio webinar and we'll have it posted to the FirstNet website sometime next week. During this webinar, we will be providing a high-level summary of each of the documents within the RFP package. The presenters for this webinar are
Carrie Callahan, Contracting Officer supporting FirstNet.
Monsef Belkade, Program Manager at FirstNet.
And I am Peggy O'Connor, Program Manager at FirstNet. The FirstNet website is the primary source of information regarding all FirstNet activities, to include links to the FirstNet Reading Room. The Reading Room provides information regarding the FirstNet program, to include information pertaining to state planning and technical white papers. The RFP, of course, can be found and downloaded from the Federal Business Opportunity website. We will now begin with Section A of the RFP package. Carrie.
Section A of the solicitation is the standard Form 33, and it identifies the page count for each of the RFP sections, as well as important contact information. Section B, Services or Supplies and Price and Cost, identifies task orders, provides pricing guidelines, and establishes the ceiling and minimum guarantee. It identifies minimum payment thresholds and defines price redetermination, which allows for pricing for initial FirstNet deployed state RANs and pricing for deployed or delayed FirstNet deployed state RANs. It describes day one and potential subsequent task orders and identifies financial resources, capabilities, guidelines, and regulations, including budget authority, public safety revenue, excess network capacity, and FirstNet operational sustainability.
Section C, Statement of Objectives. In this document, we identify the 16 key objectives of the NPSBN program and align the program with the Act requirements. Primarily, what we're trying to communicate in this document is that we want to encourage innovation. Because this is an objectives-based acquisition and not requirements-based, we include information about the overall program description and scope. The 16 objectives included in Section C are build-in, deployment, operation, and maintenance of the NPSBN, financial sustainability, first responder user adoption, device ecosystem, applications ecosystem, accelerated speed to market, user service availability, service capacity, cybersecurity, priority services, integration of state deployed RANs, integration of existing commercial, federal, state, tribal, local infrastructure to support NPSBN services, lifecycle innovation, program and business management, customer care and marketing, and facilitation of FirstNet's compliance with the Act and other laws.
Section B of the solicitation is entitled Packaging and Marking, and it provides guidance to the awardee on the requirements for packaging and marking. Section E, Inspection and Acceptance, provides guidelines on FirstNet requirements for inspection and acceptance. It defines the general acceptance criteria for deliverables as accuracy, clarity, consistency with requirements, file editing, format, and timeliness. Section F, Deliverables and Performance, identifies the anticipated period of performance for the IDIQ contract and day one task orders and provides guidance on any deliverables required for submission throughout the contract. It also notes several FirstNet required deliverables, but does not define every specific deliverable required. It also requests the offeror to define recommended deliverables based on their proposed solution, including deliverables to communicate network performance to FirstNet, formally notify FirstNet of performance related to contractual issues, and ensures that the quality assurance surveillance plan aligns with deliverables to FirstNet. Section G, Contract Administration Data, provides information and guidance regarding specific administration. It establishes and defines the roles and authorities of the contracting officer, a contract specialist, and the contracting officer's representatives in administering the contract and monitoring the contractor's performance. It also provides regulations and guidance for the contractor in interacting with the contracting officer and the contracting officer's representative, and submission of invoices and payments to FirstNet. Section H, Special Contract and Task Order Requirements, provides guidance on special contract-related requirements and terms and conditions. This section establishes most favored customer pricing for public safety subscribers. It aligns FirstNet's rights in conducting a supply chain risk assessment of equipment, devices, and software and applications. It provides bankruptcy-related provisions, FirstNet's title and rights to materials and requirements for data confidentiality and materials disposition, and requirements for contractor personnel to include any physical and/or personnel security requirements. Section I, Contract Clauses, identifies regulatory clauses required for the type of contract and task orders. It identifies Federal Acquisition Regulation clauses, Department of Interior Acquisition-related supplements, as well as Department of Commerce acquisition-related supplements. Section J includes 26 separate attachments to the solicitation. Peggy and myself will now cover each of these separate attachments.
Attachment J1, Coverage and Capacity Definitions. Attachment J1 provides information necessary to develop a coverage design that takes into consideration input from local, state, tribal, and federal stakeholders. This document describes the coverage objectives and the process followed to develop them. It also provides the definition of coverage to be used for the design and identifies baseline maps to include coverage objective maps for each state and territory, U.S. 2010 Census Population Map, Rural Definition Map, and Demand Maps. In addition, this document also outlines and defines the planning tools analysis layers.
Attachment J2, Nationwide and Rural Coverage Compliance Checklist. This checklist is provided and required for offers to certify state and territory coverage and rural partnerships. It is required that the offeror provide their deployment plan for Band 14 and non-Band 14 coverage, existing partnerships with rural telecom providers, percentage of rural coverage in each state and territory supplied by partners, and the total nationwide rural coverage provided by rural telecom partners. Attachment J3, the FCC tab. This document states the minimum technical requirements issued by the FCC to ensure a nationwide level of interoperability for the NPSBN.
Next slide, please. Attachment J4, System and Standards Views. This document provides views of the interfaces between FirstNet's core network and other external networks required to meet the FOC objectives. We intended for this document to cover the System and Standards Views, which consists of Systems, Components, and Services Interface View, identifying all interfaces during IOC through FOC, Technical Standards Description of each of the interfaces during IOC, and technical standards description of each of the additional interfaces required at FOC. It also includes external interface specifications for devices, RAN to core, roaming, MVNO when applicable, PSTN ISP, applications, and public safety enterprise network.
Attachment J5 is the proposal questions template. It provides a uniform template to submit questions about the RFP. All questions and answers will be published via FBO without identifying the source of the questions. At the conclusion of today's webinar, I will be issuing an amendment to the FBO posting as this was posted as a PDF, and it will be posted as a Word document to allow offerors to populate their questions. We want to ensure you use this question template as we've discussed and the email address as specified in Section L. We want to inform you that you do not have to wait until the end of the due date for questions. The sooner we get them, we can expedite and turn them around and issue responses.
Attachment J6, Quality Assurance Surveillance Plan, QASP. This attachment provides offers with the requirement, guidance, and context for the QASP. It also establishes specific disincentives and payments for not meeting target metrics. In this document, we define quality assurance roles and responsibilities and establish performance surveillance methods, ratings, reporting mechanisms, disincentive mechanisms, and payments for not meeting connection targets. We also included form templates for the correction action report, customer complaint record, and performance assessment report.
Attachment J7, Operational Architecture. This attachment explains the governmental functions that FirstNet will execute. It supplies FirstNet-owned functions, provides an operational architecture view, and defines the operational architecture of FirstNet functions.
Attachment J8, IOC-FOC Target Timeline. In this document, we provide the target IOC-FOC timeline for the NPSBN. This includes FirstNet's target nationwide and state milestones of key technology components, divided into 5 IOC milestones and an FOC period. It also outlines significant rural milestones and identifies Day 1 task orders, functionality associated with each IOC, FOC, and beyond.
Attachment J9 is the QASP Surveillance Matrix template. This attachment contains the data elements necessary for each quality assurance surveillance plan performance standard to be proposed by the offeror. It defines the required data elements to be supplied by the offeror, such as objectives, descriptions, acceptable performance levels, surveillance methods, measures, targets, and formulas. Offerors will also be required to reference the specific SUE objectives.
Attachment J10, Cybersecurity. Here we are providing supporting details and explanation with regard to cybersecurity. This document breaks out key emphasis areas for cybersecurity. It also covers cybersecurity within and between each of the primary domains, as well as to external resources, and establishes importance of privacy and operational integrity.
Attachment J11, the Device Specifications Template. This template allows offerors to respond with proposed device specifications, features, and functions. Offerors will have an opportunity to respond to questions regarding their hardware and software portfolio and roadmap planning to include features and functions of their device portfolio. This should also include items such as smartphones, tablets, in-vehicle routers, modems, and vehicular network systems, and miscellaneous items.
Attachment J12, Test Strategy Template. In this document, we provide a template for offerors to describe their test strategy. We want them to focus on end-to-end system-level testing that needs to be completed at each major milestone. Here, we provide a structure and instructions for the offer to provide details on the following: a mapping of the SUE and FCC tab items to IOCs and/or FOC, the strategy employed to verify the features and functions in IOC-FOC timeline, test configurations and types of test environments per IOC and FOC, entrance and exit criteria per IOC and for the FOC, the test strategy schedule and test management, and the necessary equipment, test tools, and training required.
Attachment J13, the pricing template. This template is provided to collect the necessary information to establish the price and proposed value proposition. The template is structured as a series of worksheets and includes payments to FirstNet, optional payments to FirstNet, payments to contractor, state cost, gross value, and minimum payment threshold.
Attachment J14, Terms of Reference. This attachment provides definitions of terms, phrases, and acronyms. It includes a variety of terms, both technical and general, and also FirstNet specific. It also includes key definitions of terms such as coverage, public safety entity, public safety user, and rural.
Attachment J15, Contractor Furnished Equipment. This template provides offerors a sample list format to describe and quantify the specific equipment the offeror will provide to FirstNet to allow for testing and validation of public safety features in the lab environment.
Attachment J16, Deliverables Table. Here we provide a template containing the data elements necessary to describe each deliverable proposed by offerors. This document provides three key elements: specific deliverables required by FirstNet, additional offeror proposed deliverables, and a definition of the required data elements, such as the title, RFP reference, deliverable format, frequency, and other elements.
Attachment J17, Coverage and Capacity Template. This template allows offerors to propose RAN coverage and capacity solutions. It is structured as a comprehensive workbook of data, and each offer is to provide area and population covered by IOC-FOC, network capacity by IOC-FOC, rural coverage by IOC-FOC, in-building area and population covered by IOC-FOC, design sites configuration summaries by IOC-FOC, and network design statistics.
Attachment J18, Delivery Mechanism Objectives for State Plans. The purpose of this document is to provide offerors with key functionality objectives to develop an online tool that will help deliver state plans to states and territories.
Attachment J19, State Plan Template. This provides a guideline to offerors on information that will be required to be included in each state plan. The template illustrates organization of the state plan document and major categories of information required. It describes each element in detail, noting what information contractors are to provide, to include the owner for each element, such as FirstNet, state, and contractor.
Attachment J20 are the terms and conditions for the use of FirstNet network capacity. This attachment provides the terms and conditions for the awardee for the use of the network capacity. It defines key terms such as public safety entity, covered leasing agreement, network capacity, and regulatory requirements. It also establishes conditions regarding the use of network capacity, operation of the NPSBN, compliance with regulatory requirements, use of funds provided by FirstNet, transition of public safety entity customers, solicitation, assignment, joint venture, third-party beneficiaries, severability, and survival are some of the key areas covered.
Attachment J21, Terms and Conditions for Trademark License. In this document, we provide the terms and conditions that pertain to the license of FirstNet's trademark and other related marks for branding and marketing NPSBN services to public safety entity users. This allows for a limited, personal, non-exclusive, non-transferable license in which FirstNet maintains ownership of marks.
Attachment J22, Solicitation, Conformance, Traceability Matrix. This checklist is required by offers to self-certify that all required documentation has been submitted and conforms with the solicitation instructions.
Attachment J23, End User Pricing Tables. This document identifies current end user pricing to public safety users for both Band 14 and non-Band 14 services. It also allows for estimated price points for Band 14 enabled devices for public safety.
Attachment J24, Public Safety Device Connections Template. This template is provided to offerers to detail anticipated number of public safety device connections for different types of user groups for each of the 56 states and territories over the life of the contract. Each state and territory is broken down by primary user group and extended primary user group.
Attachment J25, Past Performance Reference Information Form. In this attachment, we are providing a template and instructions for submitting past performance reference information.
Attachment J26, Sample Small Business Subcontracting Plan. This document provides a sample format to offers for their small business subcontracting plan. It identifies categories and areas offers need to address within their plans, such as dollar and percentage goals, products and services, and to whom they will be contracted for the life of the contract. Section K, Representations and Certifications, provides regulatory clauses the offers are required to respond to in such categories as business size, country of product manufacture, listing of foreign end products, and patents. Section L, Instructions, Conditions, and Notice to Offers. This section is key. It provides instructions and additional information for submission. It identifies the anticipated contract type and outlines specific information for submission of questions, pre-proposal conference, capability statements, and proposal submission, as well as key dates and times. It specifies the requirement for submission of 3 separate volumes: business management, technical, and price. The business management volume requires key information such as offers program management, fiscal processes, spectrum monetization, and program sustainability strategies, as well as the offer's corporate management structure to include the proposed teaming structure and the relationships within that structure, its ability to acquire and retain public safety customers, its customer care and lifecycle sustainment, its financial sustainability, and its capability to share information with states and territories. The technical volume requires key information, such as the offer's understanding of the overall objectives of the NPSBN and their proposed solution. This includes their test strategy, the quality assurance surveillance plan, coverage and capacity, and products and architecture. It also requires offerors to verify and validate the functions and features of their proposed solution for the NPSBN, to describe their approach for coverage and capacity, mission-critical services, and priority and preemption, as well as device and application ecosystems, and its solutions for core and RAN network service operations. The pricing volume requires key information such as instructions for completing the pricing template. It also provides information and instructions for the offeror's proposed pricing strategy for the payments to FirstNet and delayed payments to FirstNet for each of the 56 states and territories, as well as proposed payments to the contractor pertaining to the $6.5 billion budget authority and the Day 1 task orders. Section M, Evaluation Factors for Award. This section identifies the evaluation process, the basis for award, and the factors and any sub-factors to include the relative order of importance that will be used to determine the overall best value to FirstNet for the NPSBN. It identifies a multi-phase approach with 4 phases. Phase 1 is capability statement. This phase allows offerors to demonstrate they are capable of performing the work. It allows the government to advise the offerors about their potential to be a viable competitor or considered not to be a viable competitor. And notwithstanding the advice provided by the government that they are not considered a viable competitor, they may still participate in the resultant acquisition and follow the instructions in Section L and submit a proposal. Phase 2 is solicitation conformance, and during this phase, the government will conduct an initial review of proposals in order to verify conformance and completeness with the RFP instructions. Phase 3 is a pass-fail phase, and during this phase, the government will review and evaluate each proposal to ensure it meets the pass-fail factors that are identified within Section M. Phase 4 is a detailed evaluation phase, and during this phase, the government will commence the detailed evaluations for those offers whose proposed solutions have been determined to conform to the RFP in Phase 2 and successfully pass Phase 3. Within Phase 4, the evaluation factors that are included, and they are also stated in Section M, are business management, coverage and capacity, product and architecture, value proposition assessment, and past performance. There are sub-factors identified within each of these factors in their order of importance. All of that information is contained within Section M. Another key item that is noted in Section M is that this acquisition is being conducted as a best value acquisition, utilizing a non-traditional approach to the trade-off analysis with a value proposition assessment.
We would like you to note the first key milestone for RFP clarification questions is Friday, February 12th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Please use the question template that we discussed previously and submit it using the email address specified in Section L. Again, please, we do not want you to wait until the due date and time to submit your questions. Please submit your questions as you have them. This allows us to expedite turnaround time for issuance of responses. This concludes the NPSBN RFP Overview webinar. We appreciate your time and interest in this solicitation.